All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the last session of the day before the important raffles and wrap up. I'm Larry Cunningham. I'm the Dean of Charleston School of Law. I'm also on the board of Cali. And I just want to do my usual plug when I speak at conferences, and this is speaking as a dean. And it's a request is that if you saw a presentation by somebody that you really liked and you really thought was impactful, send an email to their dean. We, as deans, deal with a lot of complaints and problems that come through our email, and it's always a great thing to see an accolade for a faculty member or anybody at the school. And I'm always sure to pass that good news on as well. So just a plug for that. I'm presenting today with my colleague Adam Harness, who's our digital services librarian. And my talk is sort of a high-level overview about sort of taking a step back and thinking about how we as a school have sort of stumbled onto a philosophy of using different technological tools to enhance what is really a student-centered, in-person interaction culture. And so I bolded the word enhance. So the idea that I want to sort of convey here is technology should not replace interactions that are really valuable for students. Rather, they should complement, they should enhance what we're doing. So I'm going to talk about a couple of those tools, and then Adam is going to talk specifically about one, StackMaps, that we are particularly proud of. Adam spearheaded the rollout of that for us. Speaking of technological tools to try to make your life easier, as of last week, I'm trying out this thing, TapSnap, which is sort of a digital business card that you can either tap a phone to or scan a QR code. So there's my contact information. My goal is to get rid of business cards, at least for myself, because I never remember to carry them. And they have outdated things on, like a fax number that only doctors' offices seem to use fax numbers these days. Just a little bit about our school, Charleston School of Law. We are in Charleston, South Carolina. We are a very young school. We were founded in 2003. Got provisionally accredited shortly thereafter, fully accredited in 2011. And we are an independent law school. So we're one of 16 or 17 schools that are not affiliated with a university, which means that we don't have bureaucracies to deal with. And this comes into play a lot with technology purchases. We don't have to go through procurement. We don't have to go through competitive bidding. We don't have to go through a university IT or contracting structure. We can sign contracts, we can implement things really quickly. We're located in beautiful downtown Charleston, South Carolina. I had joined the faculty as dean 4 years ago. I was reminiscing with Deb earlier that we were working together on the Cali's remote learning training in June 2020, which is when I became dean. And the thing about Charleston, if you've never been there, is that it's a community that really prides itself on hospitality. And we really try to do that at the law school as well. So one example, a prime example of that is our associate dean for admission calls every single admitted student to tell them that they're admitted. So we'll admit 900 or so students in a cycle, and she calls every single one. That's before they get the official letter or the email. So it comes as a surprise to them. We have about 650 students, 29 faculty, and one of the things we're really proud of is that our students routinely rate us in the top 10 for faculty accessibility and quality of teaching. And that accessibility is something that we're really proud of. Our faculty has a truly an open door culture. It's something I've tried to adopt. My office is literally right off of the main elevator, and you don't have to get through, multiple layers of, closed doors to get to my office. So I frequently have students just wander in, and if they have questions or want to chat, I'm available to them. So our basic technology, our student information system is Genzavar Sanas. It's a small company. Our learning management system, we still primarily hang on to Twen. Some faculty have experimented with Teams. I tried it one semester when I taught evidence, and I nearly had a student revolt on my hands. They really did not like it. They found that it was difficult to interact with me, and so I went back to Twen. Career services, we've been very happy with 1220, replaced another major product in that area. And then for exam administration, ExamSoft. So I want to talk about some impediments that we have seen and how we have used technology to try to counter those. So I mentioned our faculty having an open door policy, being very accessible to students. They'll text with students, they'll Zoom with students. The idea is that very few faculty have sort of set office hours, but instead the idea is that if their door is open, students are welcome to drop by and chat with them. Nevertheless, our faculty teach a lot, and which means that they are in class a lot, or they might be in committee meetings. And one of the things we realized was that it was difficult for students to schedule specific times to meet with professors when they weren't in their office. So our non-technological solution was students would go down to the faculty support office. Faculty support would have access to the professor's Outlook calendar, could schedule an appointment that way, or, as was more often the case, the faculty assistant would email the professor, say, student so-and-so wanted to meet with them. What's your availability? There was a lot of back and forth. Multiple days would go by before students had an appointment. It was very frustrating for students, very frustrating for faculty, very frustrating for the faculty assistants as well. And it was sort of a common theme that I was seeing in the school-wide course evaluations. So we deployed Calendly. If you haven't used Calendly before, it syncs up with your Outlook calendar, and it's basically a bookings page. Student can click on my Calendly link. They'll see my availability in real time. I, as the professor or administrator, can block off certain times. So I generally do not like early morning appointments. So I set my first available appointment at 9:30 rather than, let's say, at 9. And it also gives students the option of how they want to have their appointment: in person, Zoom, or, God forbid, a good old-fashioned phone call. One of the things we do is we ask, we have custom questions, one of which is, what's the topic of the meeting? That way we know what the meeting is about. So for a student, with me, it could be anything ranging from a question about evidence, because they're in my evidence class, or it could be a complaint about a facility matter, or it could be a question about the bar exam, or jobs, or things like that. We also include a custom question. Is there anything that would help me to prepare for this meeting? anything you would like me to review or to know, and they can give me additional information that they may want to review. So they may say, oh yeah, I want to talk about page so and so in the textbook, or here's a link to the Alabama bar exam requirements, and I'm not sure if I meet it or not. And so then the student clicks on the link. It populates my calendar, their calendar. If they choose a Zoom or a Teams meeting, it automatically creates that link for everyone. So it has been enormously helpful in terms of allowing students to set up those times to interact with faculty, administrators, and staff. Another area that was a bit of a frustration was attendance taking and students not knowing how many absences they had in a class. So we have a very centralized attendance system. So it's not left up to each individual professor to set their attendance policy or to keep track of attendance. Historically, everything has been centrally managed. So it used to be the professor would pass around a sign-in sheet, students would sign in, they would drop it off to the faculty assistant would log it into our student information system. But there was very often a significant delay in that happening. I confess that myself, I would forget to turn in my attendance forms. They would pile up for a few class sessions. And that created some problems. It was also a very time-intensive process. So we basically had a faculty assistant who was working pretty much full-time just on attendance processing. And so we investigated, we figured there has to be some automated solution that can help us. There are a number of different products out there. We ended up going with Course Key. It's basically an app that there are different ways of recording attendance in class that the professor can use. We had been using a sound technology. So the professor would, at the start of class, log into their Course Key account. They would click a button. It says, they're ready to take attendance. And then the computer in the classroom would emit an audible sound unique to that class session that was inaudible to the human ear, but it could be picked up by the student's app. And the sound waves, I mean, it sounds, I didn't believe it at first. But the sound waves also, they don't go through drywall. And so it was a way of making sure that the person had to actually be in the class. It hasn't been perfect. We may be moving to a QR code option where the students come into class and there's a QR code on the screen and they can take attendance that way. And what that does is it gives the student, the faculty member, and importantly, our academic support office a real-time indication of attendance. So that allows for very early intervention. If we see early in the semester, particular students incurring a series of absences, somebody will reach out to them and just have a conversation and check in with them. It has also freed up that aforementioned faculty assistant to focus on more important and priority projects for faculty. Next, so I mentioned that we are a standalone school. And so that means we do not have a university health center or a university counseling center to rely on. For many years, we have partnered with the local medical school, which would provide counseling services. But the only way that students could get sort of primary medical care or specialty medical care is if they were on, if they had their own health insurance. Some did, a lot did not. And so we started looking at various options, one of which was, of course, to hire our own full-time counselor. and own full-time medical center. And obviously all of that is very, very costly. And so we looked into some various options, and we signed on to something called Timely Care, which is a remote based service geared towards college and graduate students. And we bake the cost of that into tuition. And as a result, students get free primary care, telehealth, free counseling services, including psychiatric visits and care. And they also threw it in for faculty and staff as well. I don't think they've used it very much. I'll confess, I was a bit suspicious of this because I thought, it's telehealth. It's not the same thing as actually going to see someone. And the reviews, though, from students have been amazing. They've really, really been happy with it. They don't have to drive someplace to get an appointment. They can get most things taken care of, and they've been very happy with the counseling services, which, by the way, are available 24/7, including in crisis situations. So when we were evaluating, should we hire a full-time counselor? Well, that person, it's going to be one person. What if they get jammed up in a day and they have too many appointments, and they're not going to be available at 2 a.m. if a student is having a mental health crisis? Timely Care is. And it's been very, very, very well received by students. Another impediment we saw was that students were having trouble with accessing information that they needed: the curriculum, exam schedules, course schedules, policies, recommended curriculum tracks, financial aid information. It was all scattered. Some of it was only available in print form in a student handbook. Some was on our, some resources were only on our main website, which is more public facing. And so one of the things we did was consolidated all of it, thanks to LibGuides. I'm a huge LibGuides fan. And to make it easier for students to find, we created or bought a URL, CSOL, Charleston School of Law, student.com. And so it then redirects to the LibGuide. And what I like about that URL is that it's very easy to communicate to students. So if a student stops me in the hall and says, I have a question about, when is registration? Where do I get registration information? Go to csolstudent.com. And now it's really ingrained in the culture that this is sort of a one-stop shop for students. So again, it's based on LibGuides or LibGuide, and this is it on a sort of a desktop website, but it's also, as many of you know, working with LibGuides, mobile friendly. And that's been an important lesson for us, that students are not using their laptops to check or send emails or to access resources like this. They'll obviously use their laptops to take notes, write assignments, take exams. But when it comes to some of these student services things, they're using their phones. And so we really wanted to make sure that everything we had, all of these resources were mobile friendly, including Timely Care, which is app based. Another challenge for us, we recently consolidated buildings. We used to be spread out over 3 different buildings in the downtown Charleston area, and we moved 2 of those buildings into our main building, including our law library. And That, though, created some challenges. People needed to find out, okay, how do I find where everyone is now? Some of our upper floors are a bit labyrinth-like, particularly the faculty offices. The numbering system is not intuitive, so it can be tough to find people, find faculty, and we really wanted to promote that. We wanted to promote them coming to see faculty and administrators. So Adam is going to talk about StackMap and how terrific it has been for us. He's done a lot of hard work on the back end, making sure that it is that we're really optimizing it. We also got at Adam's suggestion, he worked with our director of IT to put in kiosks around the law school that integrate with StackMap. And it's taken some time. We have to train students that this is the resource you go to if you need to find particular resources. But I'll let Adam talk more about that. A perennial challenge for us, keeping track of events and programs. We have not had a master calendar system, unlike many universities which do. We don't have software that sort of manages room bookings and things like that. And so coming soon, we will have a dedicated Outlook calendar that anyone, students, faculty, can subscribe to on their phone that will show them alongside their own appointments and meetings what's going on at the school in a given day, and it'll all be color coded. So student organization events would be one, dean events would be another, academic affairs deadlines, we're going to put that into the calendar. So students don't necessarily have to go to the printed academic calendar to see it. And then lastly, and this is sort of going at the start of the student experience with admissions, in recent years, we have found that some challenges interacting with prospective students. It used to be that not necessarily prospective students, but admitted students, they would 5-10 years ago, somebody in a new class would create a Facebook group. So the incoming class for August 2024, suddenly a Facebook page would pop up, and they would start joining it, and that's how they found roommates and asked questions that they didn't want to ask the school about. The challenge there is obviously that the current generation of law students is not on Facebook. And so Facebook groups as a mechanism for us to interact with students has really gone away. We signed on to this product. I'm pretty sure we're the only law school using it. It's called ZeeMe. It's an app, and it's mirrored on social media concepts. So there are, we preload students into it, so we don't have to wait for students to create, let's say, a Facebook group, which, by the way, another problem was competing Facebook groups. Everybody thought they were the first ones to create the Facebook group for a particular class, and they weren't. So we preload students into ZeeMe. There are different channels. So if you're a prospective student, you see one thing, admitted student, another, deposited student, something else. And it's very, best way to say it, it's very Instagram-like. It's very, it's sort of a running list of topics and discussions. Our admissions office monitors it. The students know we monitor it. And so they'll come in and they'll answer questions that may pop up or clarify things that students have heard. We also have our student ambassadors, who are 2Ls and 3Ls on ZeeMe, and so it's a peer-to-peer communication as well. The 2Ls and 3Ls, ZeeMe calls them influencers. So, it works. And we actually just got, I just an hour ago got an email from our admissions team that we're in the top 10. I think they have 200 or 300 schools on Zemi, and we're in the top 10 in terms of usage. So it's getting a lot of good use. And then finally, we're trying to move away from paper forms and we've been pretty happy with Microsoft Forms. So finally, I'll wrap up just some common themes with all of these tools. We've really wanted to complement and facilitate that in-person interaction, take away some of those barriers to students accessing faculty or accessing information, make it easier for them. They have so much going on. They're learning a new language. They're learning difficult concepts. Let's get rid of those impediments that you sort of get in the way. We've put a big emphasis on being mobile friendly because, in fact, we have good data from our IT department about which devices are being used and to access various resources. And meeting them where they are. So Zemi is a good example of sort of a more up-to-date social media platform. Our recurring challenge, unsurprisingly, is getting systems to talk to each other, particularly the student information system. Every vendor seems to promise seamless integration with your SI, and it's always much more difficult than it seems at first, but we're able to work through that. And so to talk about StackMap, I'm going to turn it over to Adam. Thank you very much.
All right. So I'm going to talk about mapping more than just your library. And this is how we had to create StackMaps to actually be able to do everything. So first, who am I? That's me, as he's already mentioned. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the library itself. So as he mentioned, we were at a separate building. In 2023, we moved into our current space. We have about 12,000 volumes, 17 study rooms, 3 classrooms, 4 librarians, 5 study areas, 2 conference centers, 2 departments in the library, or 2 departments of the law school that are sharing our space, and the circulation desk. The only thing we're missing is the partridge in the pear tree. So what is StackMap? Well, StackMap is a mapping software. It's made specifically to map libraries. And one of the main reasons I started looking at StackMap was we had students that would come in and complain that they could not find anything. And it wasn't just finding things in the library. I would get complaints from students that they couldn't find the dean's office or their professor's office. If I had $1 million for every student that stopped in my office to ask where the bathroom was, I'd be competing with Bill Gates. So we needed a way for these students to be able to find their way around the building without having to stop and ask for directions every time they were looking for something new. StackMap comes with 3 programs, and you have to subscribe to each one separately. There's the collection mapping, which is for the libraries. Then there's the computer availability, which is if you have a computer lab, StackMaps can map that out and show what computers are available for the students and which ones are being used. And then there's the Explore program. This picture here is actually a picture of the Explorer. And so as you can see here, it's very laid out. You've got the map, you've got the list of subjects here, and then you've got places. This is where things get difficult, though. So when looking at the Explore program, this is the first thing that comes up. As you can see, I have my list of subjects. Doesn't look too bad unless I start scrolling down. It is just a giant list. The places at the top is the same. So this became a problem. And it's so much of a problem that even when we set up StackMap, one of their representatives reached out to me and wanted to know why we didn't have anything set up. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, there's only like 12 things here. I was like, did you scroll down? And she went, oh, there's more. So if their own representatives didn't realize they needed to scroll, students aren't going to realize that either. So I had to come up with something else to be able to use this, because once I set this up, I realized it was just too massive. So I decided to create my own interface to go with StackMap. And originally, it was just going to be a very simple interface. A few buttons, you click on one, it gives you some more options, eventually getting you to the map you were looking for. But as I began setting it up, the code started out fairly simple. It was just a basic directory at first. But as I began adding more functionality to it, it started getting more and more complex. So today, this is what it looks like. Now, this screen can change depending on the size of the monitor it's being used with. So it is mobile friendly as well if the students were to ever find the URL for this. Luckily, I've got this set up where it's only accessible on the kiosks that are inside the library, that are inside the law school, and cannot be tracked by any of the search engines. But today's classes was one of the things that has been the most complicated. And as you can see, there's no more classes today because it's like the middle of the evening back in Charleston. But each one of these do different things. So for example, let's say that a student wanted to find room 221. This would give them a copy of the map and show them where 221 is. From here, they could go back to search for another room. I'm actually going to zoom out just a little. Or they could go home. They could look for their professors. I've got them organized by last name. And as you can see, this map here, this is our faculty suite. So most of the students had no idea these were here. They would show up downstairs on the first floor in my office asking, where do I find Professor Jensen's office? Like, well, he's on the third floor. Here, let me pull out a map and I'll show you. You have to go here, here. And the problem with these rooms is they're not really numbered. All of these rooms have the same number. It's like 337. The only difference is you have A, B, C, D, E, depending on whichever one they're in. So it was not very intuitive for the students to try to find. This, by the way, is what today's classes look like typically. The way this is set up is it actually runs through the class files that I have created and shows all the classes for the day. And as those class times pass, all the classes move up, removing the ones that have already passed. As for the kiosks, so we have one kiosk per floor. They are touchscreen and they also come with remotes. So students can use them even if they can't touch the screens themselves. They can be raised or lowered, so they are ADA compliant. And if anyone wants to know more about the touch screens or would like to see about ordering some themselves, This QR code will take you directly to the Amazon link that was used to order these. But when you access the kiosk, this is what it looks like. So we've got the current time. I've got today's legal headlines. There will be, instead of today's legal headlines though, there will be another box that will also be listed here once we get the school-wide calendar set up that will link to today's events. The school events does show a small calendar that's done by our student affairs office, where they try to get as many events in as they can. It shows the week. Department info shows contact information for each department that's in the building. And the survey is so students can tell us how much they like or hate this. So far, surveys have been positive. The school directory, that is the StackMap interface. So when you access this with the kiosk, it actually looks like this. This down here, and we use Site Kiosk for our for the software for the kiosk here. This down here is added by the kiosk, but the rest of this remains the same. So students can continue to go through it, find whatever they need, come back, and I'm always making upgrades to it. The problem, of course, is it's not automated. So every semester I have to update today's classes. And if there are changes to the personnel, I have to change those on the map. Now, to actually make those changes, I'm going to show you how this looks on the back side. So this is StackMap. This is the back end. When you're loading your floors, you're going to use the create floors. StackMap will actually help you with this. StackMap created the original maps that are on here. I've had to do a little tinkering here and there as things have changed, but for the most part, StackMaps does this for you. But you can update them anytime you need to, just by uploading a new file. But the app you need is Explore. Once you get into the back end of Explore, you only have these three options. This is that list of subjects, the list of places, and you can test it, which is just the main function. So when you go into creating a place, the first thing it's going to do is ask you what floor you're using, and it gives you the map. From here, if you need a new one, you just hit add new place, and it creates a new one of these little green boxes right here at the very top of the map. Move it to where you need it, size it to however it needs to be, and then you can edit the content. Now this list is a list of places I've already set up. So if that's a conference room, I can come down here, tell it to save, but it's not completely saved yet. Just because I've done that doesn't mean this is done. To actually save this map, I have to hit save here. If you don't hit the second one, it deletes what you've done. So again, not very intuitive, but it works great when you actually get it set up. As you can see with what I have here, I can now come back up here, explore, and if I hit home and test, I come here to the first floor, I can now highlight over here, click on this, and it shows me this is conference room 1. If I come over here to places and click on the conference rooms, it lights that up along with the other two. The StackMap interface I created will also do that by using this share link that's here. So whenever someone on the interface clicks for conference rooms, it will pull this share link showing them this map. But the way I have it set is so that it will not show any of the rest of it, only the map itself. So everything else is hidden. As I said, there's always changes being made. We do have another kiosk that's in the library. It is set up slightly different than the others. So right now it's got the library catalog, a general map of the library, along with study room locations, and they can make reservations for the study rooms from here on this particular kiosk. And this is what this kiosk will look like once it's fully set up. There will eventually be a locate subjects, which we just got through moving most of our collection around. So I had to completely redo the subject mapping, and I finished that on Monday. So hopefully this will be set up sometime in the next couple of weeks. And then a library directory where you could find our offices inside the library. And this is the way that one looks. Our director decided to make ours portrait mode instead of landscape like the others. So if you have any questions for me or for Dean Cunningham, we'll be happy to take them at this time.
Just had a question about the stack maps.
Mhm.
Where did the data sources come from? Is it manually entered?
So the data sources are manually entered, yes. And I can actually show you that here in just a moment. So for each one that you put in, get to the actual back end again. So here in the Explorer with the edit places, you use this update place types, and it allows you to enter in those particular place points. So as you saw with the list, I didn't just want students being able to search by the academic departments. I wanted them to be able to search by the name as well. So the list is a little more extensive than what would be typically in a StackMap library.
And it also allows students to search by events, right? So you would need to enter event data.
Yes, once we get all that set up with the main Outlook calendar, then I can start setting that up with event data as well.
Got it. Then another question, and this was, I think, just related to the with your presentation about the displays, the kiosk with the information for the rooms, like the schedule. Is there a system that's tied to those displays? Like, is there like the like a calendaring system that pulls the what's going on in each room, or?
No, actually,
we
we
haven't done that. That's what
yeah. That is actually me myself. So I go in
sorry.
and I have set up files for it to pull the schedule information from.
Okay, thank you.
They need two of you in here.
I'll be that guy. How much does StackMap cost?
Let's see. That is a very good question. Let's see. I think when we set it up, I think it was around, we got the collection mapping and the Explorer. And if I remember correctly, it's around 4,000 a year.
Any other prices on the other tools, Zeme, things like that? I know I can probably look them up, but
Yeah, I think Zeme is even less than that. Yeah, no, I was not deeply offended when I saw either of these quotes come in. So
yeah, you're a dean, so that means something.
yeah.
I mean, I'm cheap myself. That's the reason I'm setting up the whole thing myself.
Is it an option to import like building plans so that you don't have to build the whole map from scratch, or do you have to build the whole map from scratch?
So actually StackMap took the building plans and built those maps.
Oh, so they do some of the work for you.
So they do some of the work for me.
That's cool.
And then I was able to use just like Microsoft Paint to make little changes wherever it was necessary. So, yeah,
High tech,
Yep.
nice.
I didn't realize Microsoft Paint was still around.
yes, it is amazingly.
Yeah, I mean, there needed to be some tweaks. So our building plans are 99% accurate, but there were a few, walls that just needed to be adjusted. But that was a big, I think that was a big advantage of what StackMap could offer was that ability to do, because otherwise, if you had to sit there and draw to scale the building, and as Adam pointed out, the faculty suites are very oddly configured and laid out, that would have been a major undertaking.
Oh, yeah.
Dean Cunningham, you mentioned your admissions director calls every admitted student. Do they answer the phone?
That is a phenomenal question. That is a great question. What do you think the answer is?
No. I have a 21-year-old daughter. I think the answer is no.
So I'd say she tells me a 50-50. So those that pick up, great. Those that don't, very often, I mean, I've been guilty of this too, will Google the number, see that it came from Charleston School of Law, and then won't listen to the voicemail, but will immediately call back. So if,
So you text them first, then call.
yes, yes, I need to talk to you urgently about your application to the law school. Heart palpitations will ensue. But yeah, it's phone calls are, sometimes a rarity these days. But I have to say, it goes over so well, that personal call, that personal attention. Again, it's not, I mean, a lot of schools call admitted students. Some deans even will call every single admitted student. But it's after the letter's gone out, and so you get even less of a response. But it's it's routinely something that students said that really made a difference. That somebody called me and congratulated me and
Well, if there's no other questions, I say we go raffle some stuff off.
nice transition.
Great, only 15 minutes.